Hello, and welcome to Beyond Works podcast. My name's Johnny from Johnny Bentley 360. Been a photographer for around 4 or 5 years now, and now here at Beyond Works over the last year. I'm going to pass you over to my partner in crime, Gemma.
Hi, I'm known as Gemma Photography, based at Beyond Works. Over 15 years now doing photography, so quite a while. And today we have a special guest, Talula. Hello. Hi.
Hi, Talula. Do you want to kind of give a bit of an introduction to who you are and why you're here? Well, not necessarily why you're here, because we'll introduce that in a minute, but who you are and sort of get to know the audience, I suppose.
Okay. I'm Talula. I have just sort of started my modelling journey last year, and I am getting used to finding my feet in modelling as a disabled model. So that's where I'm at.
Do you want to give maybe... Okay, yeah, so we're here to discuss with Talula, kind of, as a new model, what are some of the things that she has to overcome, that they have to sort of discuss going forward with being a disabled model in the industry. Now, I don't know if you remember a couple of episodes we discussed with Gemma regarding her experience as somebody that's been in the industry for a while, but this is somebody new in 2024 now, that's going into the sort of model industry, and sort of what we can sort of expect from her experiences so far. Okay, so do you want to start off with what disabilities you have and how it sort of affects you? Not obviously great detail, but you know what you want to sort of.
Yeah. So I have I've got a couple of physical disabilities. So I have fibromyalgia, and I also have hypermobility. Those combined mean that I can dislocate joints and things like that. It can cause damage to my joints, and it affects my mobility and affects my walking. So I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user. Some of the time I'll be on wheels, some of the time I'll be with my walking stick. It just basically affects me getting around generally. Things like once I'm in a studio or a closed space, I can usually use a stick and get around there. I also have ADHD, which obviously affects sort of your cognitive.
But they work from together. Being like a spoonie and then overexcitable ADHD gremlin.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Well, no, because ADHD isn't always overexcited.
I know it's
It is though, when you get a bit of adrenaline, like when you get into the studio, I'm like, oh, there's all these things I want to do. I'm gonna lay on the floor.
I mean,
you
kind of go, oh, wait a minute.
Ow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at a shoot I did just before Christmas, I was like, oh, I've got this really good idea. I'm gonna sit in the chair and stick my legs in the air. And then afterwards I was like, yeah, I'm going to need help to get out of this position. But the photos look really good. It was worth it. But yeah, it is unfold myself now.
So what actually made you want to kind of get into modelling?
Well, I've always been really interested in fashion and style. I've always had quite an alternative style from when I was a young teen in college and things like that. Wild eye makeup and things like that. It's always been really creative for me. Like the whole fashion and makeup and all of that. It's all more about the creativity for me than it is about the sort of, I don't know, the staying up to date. That doesn't bother me. It's more about showing something different.
You'd be more kind of geared towards the alternative and the more creative side of modelling.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing at the moment is sort of starting with some more creative shoots and things like that, because I just want to capture things that stand out and stuff like that, and it's really nice to be able to do that, like to finally like fully embrace myself and do that as myself as a disabled model as well.
I mean, we know we've met you before at the alternative modelling contest, which was, I remember, the shy little person coming in on the model thought school day. Yes, and obviously you ended up signing up for the full competition.
I kind of talked to you and I was like, no, we need to do this.
Yeah. I think if you hadn't have talked to me, I would probably still not have gone.
Was the experience worth it?
It was. It was so good. The whole of the model school it gave me such a kick of confidence. And then when my photos that you guys took came back, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I actually signed up, because then I'm going to get more of this. And it's like, it's nice being able to see the creative that I pour into it displayed in like a way by a professional photographer, in a way that you just can't get in a selfie. It's just not the same, and you can throw your all into it because you're not responsible for the, pose of camera and all of that at the same
I
time.
mean, I'm sure it's a topic for a future thing of like mobile phones, the cameras and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. But I do agree, obviously, as a photographer, there's only so much you can get from a selfie, and you can put filters on it
You're
and
a little
everything.
biased,
But
but
it's
yeah.
that. No, but it is. It's that
Well, no,
experience
because
in.
I do selfies and obviously proper photos, and there is a massive difference.
Yeah.
Selfies now are better than they used to be though, because cameras are a bit more high spec on your phones.
Yeah.
But I think having the
Still
time
the
to have the proper lighting and everything does make a difference.
It also feels really good.
Yes.
Like being sat behind the lights, posing and stuff when someone else is like sort of encouraging you and stuff. It's such a confidence boost, especially as someone who has spent the last few years sort of getting used to my body as it is now being disabled, and then being able to sort of embrace that and wrap that up with my alternative style, and then someone will point a camera at it and be like, wow, that's really good, let's try this, and it's really inspiring.
It's good to hear because we have the other side of that thing is some people can find the lights and the camera in the face, and especially at the model school where there's people watching you.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole crowd behind
There
you and
was
stuff
a lot
like that.
of people.
It can be quite intimidating. I mean, I find it personally, that's why I'm a photographer and not a model, is I don't like being in front of the camera. If I went into a studio and saw all these lights, I'd sort of be going, but I get used to, I'd probably be a lot better now because I've been on this side of the camera and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But doing it in front of people especially it takes guts, and especially if it's your first time doing that, whether you've got somebody like Gemma who had won the contest and really helping you pose and stuff like that, you still need to have that air of confidence to be able to do it. It's like, yeah.
So, you said about like all these positive attributes and kind of being able to do that. Is there any kind of negative things you've kind of experienced?
I think some of the difficulties are things like the placement of studios at the moment. A lot of studios are based in older mills and things like that. The access to them, if they're on a floor that's not ground floor, is usually not great. So, had a shoot recently, the studio was on the second floor, and the photographer who booked it, she thought it was the first floor. And I was like, one flight of stairs, that's fine, I can do that. Getting back down is going to be a little more tricky after I've done the poses and stuff like that. But it's manageable. I usually have one of my partners with me so that I'm not struggling by myself, and I've got support. It was tricky. It was a bigger set of stairs than I was expecting. And I did look around a bunch of studios afterwards, and I went, a lot of them are actually in places like this, because it makes a really good studio space, but it doesn't really take into account how some of the access requirements for disabled models are going to be different.
I mean, personally, I think the world hasn't moved to disabled people anyway.
Yeah,
not sounds
outside of modelling, there's still
outside.
spaces you can't access.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of things that get affected, but I think because photography studios are mainly based in mills, mainly based in that sort of thing, unless you're going to someone's house, but then you've got the safety aspects of housing, and most houses aren't disabled friendly anyway, are they? But it's one of them. I think that's an important thing. What I would ask you is regarding the stairs and sort of stuff. Is obviously we mentioned in the last episode about you. If you had to go upstairs, you pretty much couldn't pose. You'd have to take sort of half an hour to recoup just to be able to sort of do. Did you find you had to do that, or was it sort of as a new person you kind of just felt the pressure to just
No,
through it?
I asked them to put someone else first before me.
So it was a group shoot.
There was 3 different models. It was all individual and then a group pictures, and she just went, oh, it's okay, you sit for a bit, we'll get someone else on first. Which kind of worked because one of the girls was desperate to get out of there. So
well, no, it sounds like the photographer is quite understanding as well.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming they were quite apologetic when they found out how many stairs.
Yeah, she met me on the ground floor and she said, I'm really sorry, it's higher up than I thought it was. And I was like, oh, that's okay, we'll manage, it'll be fine, because I was there by that point, and by the time you're there, there's no like
So,
You're not going to be like, no.
kind of moving forward when you go for shoots, what would you need as a model if you're going for a shoot? Like if you have a conversation with photography and you say, look, I need this kind of floor level or whatnot, do you know what you kind of require?
Yeah. So from day-to-day life and being an ambulatory wheelchair user, I kind of have an idea of what I would need. So firstly, accessibility, the best way to really get that covered is lift access, really, if it's going to be anywhere other than the ground floor, because a lot of places the lift access is there, but it's not really a feasible lift for a wheelchair user to use. So in an older mill, you usually get they're like two slidey door things.
The old-fashioned shutters,
yeah.
sort of,
And realistically, to get into that and close two sets of doors on a wheelchair,
you couldn't actually
you can't actually get them shut. Which is partly why I always have someone with me, but also.
Can I just make a point on that? We discussed this in the last sort of episode that we do always
encourage
a chaperone. Even if you're not disabled, it's always worth. All I would say with the chaperones is, like I said in the last episode, is as long as you don't get in the way of the shooting and the actual thing, perfectly acceptable to bring somebody. And I feel for a safety reason, it should always be something that you have, available.
I think we've got a couple of models who don't tend to bring chaperones, but we know them like from working with them previously when they've had chaperones with them, and they feel comfortable with us. But if you're working with someone for the first time, always have someone with you, regardless if you're having a good day or a bad day. Still have a chaperone.
Yeah. It is very helpful having the support there as well, and also sort of it takes a bit of the nerves away.
I don't know if you get it, but I do. I'm quite bad for it. I sometimes push my limits when I'm doing a shoot. And I have a chaperone with me.
In life, generally.
But it's really good to have someone who understands that I can go, stop a minute, have some water, you need a breather. And they can that's the only time where I think a chaperone should interrupt when it's a disabled model. You kind of looking like, I'm starting to wobble a bit, but just stop for a second.
To be fair, I've already seen your chaperone offer you hydration today.
Yes.
And you've only been here, half an hour?
It's So I at the shoot I did in December as well. I took a partner, and every few minutes she'd be checking in with me, making sure that I was hydrated, making sure that I had I'd given myself the time before I moved from, because I did. I had a really good idea, and I was like, oh, this would look really cool, because I'm going to lay down on front, I'm going to cross my arms, and she went, can you get down there and get back up? And I went, I'll need help to get back up. So the photographer, firstly, was really good. She was very supportive and making sure that she knew I could get down there, and my partner helped me to get lay down on the floor, and then she helped me get back up again, and then she was like, right, we're going to take a minute now, okay? And then we stopped, I had a bit of my water, and then we sort of continued after that. But it was really good to have someone to prompt that, because sometimes, like you were saying with the ADHD thing, the little gremlins take over,
your brain kind of
go,
go, and then you're like, I should ask for help when I did that.
Yeah.
So one of our first shoots, I'll throw you under the bus here, but one of our first shoots that we did was on location in a forest sort of position, and there's a great little sort of opening with a grass on the floor.
Vines.
It's like vines and grass, and you wanted to sort of sit down and lay in.
So I had this big red kind of cake thing, and I thought against the green vines, sat down with it all. It looked amazing. Didn't think of the logistics.
So we left your chaperone further down and sort of, I'll get down on the floor and different things like that. And we got the pictures. Then obviously I had to help you up, didn't I? But this was very early on. We'd only sit next to each other, sort of, and there's that fine line of, as a photographer, I like to ask before I touch. It's not that I'm touching models, but before you offer your hand out and helping with posing, that sort of thing. It's kind of, there's that very fact, and we were still at that sort of point, but I had to use all my strength to help you up, didn't we?
Because I was like, oh, I don't need my stick, I'm posing, I'll throw it over there.
Yeah, I've done
But you think I'm 15, 20 years down the line, and I still do those things. Yeah. It doesn't go away, those ADHD moments of, oh, but this will look epic. Having someone else there to kind of go, just a little minute.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. It's just that little tiny pullback, just I know it's going to look good, but just wait for a second.
Yeah.
And then,
So you mentioned about stairs, and we said about where you need to go. So now we want to know kind of what are your plans moving forward with modelling?
So this is your third shoot, isn't it? Today we're doing another shoot after
Yeah, we're
this
gonna
with
do a
yourself.
shoot. If you do follow us on any other platforms, there'll be TikToks and pictures and things online. Only on Quirks.
I honestly, I haven't thought this far ahead, so I'm still kind of planning. I am currently building my website, which I've just got my domain set up for, which will be talula.art.
Nice. So then you can include other things as well.
Yeah, so I do a lot of drawing and colouring.
I was gonna say you like myself.
ADHD.
Well, no, it's
Sorry.
so, we touched on it on the last thing when I was talking about kind of neurodivergent people. We don't just have one particular thing, and creativity kind of pours out us in other aspects. So obviously for me, I do modelling, photography, and I make jewellery, and I do art, and I've started doing digital art recently. Not very good at it yet, but I'm enjoying the process. So what else do you do then?
So I do a lot of colouring. I also do some digital art. I do sketch and I paint miniatures a lot as well. Because I also am a big nerd. I play Dungeons and Dragons.
The little D&D characters.
Yeah, so my little tiny minis for my characters.
See, so I'm a complete ignorant comes to something called Labyrinth. They brought out a board game with little miniatures.
Yeah.
So far I have the base on them. I haven't got around to actually painting them because I have no idea. So I might talk to you after this about that.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. I love anything where I can put a creative, where I can see it and portray it through what I see.
Yeah.
So with colouring, like I'll get a colouring book and I won't necessarily look at it and go, this is the colours this would be in the world. There's a particular artist that I like who does a lot of sort of fantastical things, and I like adding a bit of a different thing on them.
So it's otherworldly almost.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it's why us as Beyond Quirks, we're not Beyond Quirks photography studio,
Yeah,
we're creative studio, because we wanted to be able to introduce like videography, YouTube, your jewellery, you know, other stuff. We wanted to have that umbrella. I mean, who knows, maybe an agency one day, you know, that sort of stuff. We don't know what the future is going to hold, but we wanted to have, when we registered the business, to have that scope.
Yeah.
Rather than it just being a photography sort of.
I mean, like, you see yourself have like a big painting on the wall by a local artist. We kind of love bringing in art and kind of making it all a bit different.
Yeah.
So we don't like normal studios.
Yeah, I love that, and that's one of the reasons when you asked me here, I was like, oh yes, absolutely, because you bring in the aspects of creativity that I want to embrace and bring into my creative work as well.
So the ocean's sort of completely open for you when you're modelling through. You just sort of, I suppose you're still at the cusp and just waiting to see what
I've got a
happens.
few
aren't you?
shoots booked.
Yes.
So I've got one which is going to be in a beautiful abandoned mansion. I've got someone who's going to do a shoot with me in some of the more industrial sort of areas in Manchester to get some of that sort of backdrop in as well. I've got another who wants to do outdoors, although we've not actually discussed where we were thinking foresty. So I've got a bit of everything coming up over the next sort of.
I know my secret location, which would be a good shout for that.
Yeah,
But I won't say it on camera because it's my secret location.
Okay.
It's go on.
I was gonna say, did you have kind of a niche or a kind of style that you'd be moving more towards, or in your mind?
I like to embrace sort of multiple areas, but I do want to explore a bit more fantastical stuff as well. One of the shoots that's coming up, I'm going to have a big gown. So things like that can touch on it. One of the outfits that I brought with me today is I've got some horns with it, so it's a little bit more like fantastical. So yeah.
So like with me, I love Victorian era, so I started kind of gearing more towards that, hence why I have a lot of steampunk costumes and Victorian gowns, because I love the aesthetic of that, but I wanted a modern twist.
Yeah.
So I think you're kind of going down the right route because you're going where your heart is,
Yeah.
and I think that makes such a difference. And you'll just flourish and remember to have fun.
Thank you.
I mean, we discussed on when we were sort of organising this today, was what do you actually need for your portfolio? And I think it's probably a good topic while we've still got some time left, is what does a new model need for a portfolio? And I think to me it's a range.
Yeah.
It's a range. So I mean, we're no experts, we're not agencies, so we don't know what means for you to sign, but knowing what Jem did, knowing what some of the other high-profile models that we know, I mean, the recent female winner of alternative model, Luna, she had 3-4 different, completely different looks at the competition. It's like, and a well-deserved winner personally, I think, but I think that as a portfolio, you need to sort of show you can do, the diversity, but you can do not boring headshots, but, you know, plain headshots looking sort of normal alternative, but then also the range sort of like, you know, full floaty gowns, fantasy, cosplay, boudoir, you know, it's you kind of got to tick all boxes, but at the same time, you can still niche down to, I only want to do alt model in Hellbunny dresses, nothing wrong with Hellbunny dresses, but you know what, specifically down to,
for quite a few years.
but specific down, or you can like be a latex model that only works with that sort of stuff. But I think initially you need that.
You kind of have to try
range.
a few different things and find what you enjoy most and where your kind of passion is going to fit.
Yeah, that's
And
why
that's
I
the
sort of
easiest way to do it.
poured myself in a few different directions.
So, one of the things I will say to you is, as photographers, when we have someone apply to come and do a photo shoot with us, we always look at their portfolios, and a lot of the photographers do the same. For us personally, if we see a model's portfolio where their face is the same on every image, they've got no facial expression, but the poses are amazing, we're less likely to work with them because they haven't kind of gone with the vibe. So, say they've done like this really demonic look, but then the plain face, they're not actually in the character. We kind of like engaging with that side of
Well, me as
things.
a photographer, I love eyes and faces. That's I'm very much a portrait photographer. We've realised this. It's, I actually not a fan of taking full length shoots. So doing the alternative model myself, and as a photographer, it was difficult because I wanted to get really close in and see people's faces
And all makeup
and all really cool stuff. But then the outfits were just amazing that you can't take that away. Sort of, it's finding that fine line, sort of thing. But yeah, no, I agree. It's that sort of, you've got to have the facial expression. I mean, going back to the ADHD thing, you tend to look at people's portfolio a lot more. I mean, you almost face stalk people.
Yeah, no.
You go back and sort of see, you know.
Like, oh, they did this ages ago. We need to recreate this kind of style. That looks really good.
Whereas it's a general look of, oh right, I can work with this, I can work with that. This is really cool, and
Well, like I said, like a lot of photographers will look at what you've done and go, right, well, they kind of fit my aesthetic. They work well for what I'm doing. So if you've got a real range, they can go, oh, they're able to do that as well. It kind of works for your favour and helps boost you a bit more.
That was sort of my idea behind the things that I thought.
And like a lot of people, like further down the line when you've done a few shoots, you can say, I am this kind of model. So a lot of the kind of the online model things like Model Mayhem, Purple Pot, there's tick boxes for the type of modelling you do. But at first you don't necessarily know what kind of modelling you want to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of movies tend to tick it all and then wonder why they've got people contacting them about stuff they're not even interested in.
Yeah.
So just kind of like keep it, you know, be willing to do different things, but you won't do this. Learn where your limits are and kind of develop it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go, right, I'm this kind of model, do you need me?
We're definitely going to be doing a couple of episodes on safety with modelling, but that is certainly a big, limits is a big thing. If you don't want to do a certain shoot, you tell them you don't want to do a certain shoot, whether it's paid, whether it's anything. And if you come down to do a shoot that you think you're going to be normally dressed and this and that, and then somebody says, no, can you take that off? You need to be adamant. I'm not, that sounds awful like I'm lecturing you particularly, but as a new model.
So the new models tend to end up with people kind of pushing their limits to see how far they'll go because they haven't learned where they need to stand yet. So it's just learning where you kind of want to put the line. And it makes much of a difference as well as being a disabled model. You can have someone try and push your physical limits as well. And your mental limits as well. So like if you don't feel like you're mentally capable of doing a certain thing, you need to be more vocal about it. That's all models, it's not just you, I mean in general. I've worked with so many newbies and I watch them do stuff and I'm like, you look really uncomfortable, you should have just said no. So just kind of being aware.
Yeah, I think that's something I've learned to be quite vocal about. Especially
well, no, you
with
like me.
physical disabilities, I can't really, there are certain things that I can't push because I know it will have a knock-on effect and affect my like day-to-day life for days afterwards maybe. So I'm quite vocal about like,
I think
yeah,
as,
you try this.
as a disabled person, you have to be quite vocal anyway.
Yeah.
Because if you're having a bad day and you can't tell someone, I mean, I know you people get non-verbal and stuff, but if you can't tell someone, how are they going to know to help you? Not that
Yeah.
you necessarily need help in that situation, but
Yeah, there's also the aspect of the, I mean, like when you kind of learn to live with it, but if someone's newly disabled, they don't necessarily know their limits as well. So it's it's a learning curve for everyone.
Being new to modelling, it is a learning curve for me where my physical limits are a bit. So that's something that I'm sort of developing into at the moment as well. Is like certain things, obviously with poses, when you want to get more into it and stuff. Like we were saying about with ADHD, it does give me like a kick of the general. Like I know this is gonna look really good. I want to try it, but I have to sometimes sort of slightly pull back and be like, I know it's gonna. I need to give myself that sort of thought process before I just go. Yeah, I'm gonna lay on the floor and stick my legs in the air, and it's gonna look amazing, but like I'm not gonna be able to walk for like a week.
Well, like for me, I had years where I didn't have to use my stick when posing. I now rely on it, and I had to learn how to pose holding a stick and still hit those markers and not push myself.
Yeah.
But you kind of learn over time, and if we're still doing podcasts and stuff, I'd kind of like to recap with you at a later date and see how far you've gone down your journey, if that's okay.
That'd be really
I
lovely.
see any horror stories or good stories
Yeah.
in the past, you know.
Oh, I don't wish horror stories.
No, I'm not wishing horror stories, nobody wants to wish horror, but every model I've
Every
spoken
model
to,
has one story at
yes,
least.
yeah, it's like, whether it's a,
Teacher, we might be the story though.
yeah,
They got us in this horrible place in the middle of nowhere, in this mill on a ground floor thing.
and the toilets were disgusting. No, it's not, yeah, so I think we'll sort of wrap it up there. I'll hand over to Talula if you want to sort of say goodbye, maybe leave that website again, what you're on social media and stuff like that, and then we'll do our sort of little wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just about to launch my website, which will be talula.art. You can find me on Instagram, Talula Cain. Pretty easy to find, and I've got a lot of stuff on there.
For our audio listeners that aren't visual, Talula has very bright red hair at the moment, and you can't really miss them. So, but for our visual, obviously you can see that. So I'm pretty sure your profile picture is of you, isn't it? Yes.
I think it's the one you guys took.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, we're going to get ready to do a shoot. We're going to give some Talula at a time, maybe a hot drink. But if you want to hear more of our podcast, moving forward, like and subscribe. And then obviously you can find us on all the social media platforms. Just look up Beyond Work, so quite easy to find. And like I said, from today's shoot, there'll probably be TikToks and images going on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc.
Yeah. And I was just going to say for the actual podcast, if you don't want to watch us on video for YouTube, I mean, please comment, give us some more ideas. If you want us to get Talula in and discuss other questions, please do. Just let us know in the comments below. We are available on like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that sort of stuff. If you just want in the audio for when you're at the gym or doing a shoot yourself or whatever. Yeah, thank you very much for today, and see you in the next episode.